The rain hammered against the bay windows of Celestia, the kind of exclusive restaurant where a single glass of wine cost more than my weekly grocery budget. I could hear it even through the thick glass, a relentless percussion that matched the ache spreading through my lower back. 7 hours into my shift, and the leather soles of my cheap work shoes had worn so thin I could feel every groove in the marble floor beneath my feet. I balanced the tray of champagne flutes against my hip, weaving between tables draped in cream linen. The air smelled of truffle oil, aged wine, and money. So much money it seemed to have its own scent. Something sharp and clean that made my second-hand uniform feel even more conspicuous. The fabric pulled tight across my shoulders, where I'd mended a tear last week, and I prayed it would hold through the rest of the night. "Excuse me," I murmured, slipping past a woman whose diamond bracelet probably cost more than my student loans. She didn't even glance up. That's what I'd become in places like this. Invisible. A ghost in black and white, present only when needed, forgotten the moment I stepped away. Some nights, I wondered if I disappeared completely when I left through the service entrance, if I materialized into existence only when someone required their wine refilled or their plates cleared. My phone buzzed in my pocket, probably another text from Marcus about the rent. 3 months behind now, and his patience had worn as thin as my shoe soles. But I couldn't think about that now, not with my manager's eyes tracking every movement, waiting for me to slip up so he could dock my already meager tips. I was replacing empty glasses at table 7 when the atmosphere shifted. It started as a murmur near the entrance, a ripple of awareness that spread through the dining room like wind across water. Conversations faltered. The woman with the diamond bracelet actually looked up. Even the string quartet in the corner seemed to play softer, as if the music itself had learned deference. I didn't turn around immediately. I'd learned that curiosity cost time, and time cost tips. But I felt it. A change in air pressure, a presence that made the hair on the back of my neck rise beneath my ponytail. "Clear the private dining room," my manager hissed, appearing at my elbow. His cologne mixed poorly with the kitchen smells clinging to my uniform, garlic and desperation. "Now, VIP just arrived." I glanced toward the entrance as I gathered the empty glasses. 3 men in dark suits had entered first, their eyes scanning the room with the kind of systematic precision I'd only seen in movies. Security. Real security. Not the bored bouncer type, but the kind that made you believe they could kill you with a dessert fork and make it look like an accident. Then he walked in. I don't know what made me stop. Maybe it was the way everyone else had already stopped, their attention drawn to him like metal to a magnet. Maybe it was the way the light seemed to bend around him. Or maybe I was just exhausted enough that my brain had started playing tricks. He was young. Younger than I'd expected from the security detail and the obvious deference. Late 20s, perhaps 30 at most. Dark hair swept back from a face that belonged on a magazine cover, all sharp angles and strong jaw, but it was his eyes that caught me, even from across the room, dark, calculating. The kind of eyes that saw everything and forgot nothing. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than my car, if I still had a car. The fabric draped perfectly across broad shoulders, tailored with the kind of precision that announced wealth without screaming it. A crisp white shirt, open at the collar. No tie. Even his casual defiance of formality seemed intentional, powerful. I realized I was staring when a champagne flute slipped from my grip. Time fractured into slow motion, the crystal tumbling, catching light, my hand reaching out uselessly. The glass shattered against the marble floor with a sound like a gunshot in the sudden quiet. Champagne splashed across my shoes, soaked into my stockings. Every eye turned to me. Heat flooded my face. My hands trembled as I knelt, trying to gather the shattered pieces, apologizing to no one and everyone. "I'm so sorry. I'll clean this up. Leave it." My manager's hand clamped onto my shoulder, fingernails digging through fabric. "Kitchen. Now," but I couldn't move, because he was looking at me. The man in the black suit had stopped, his security detail pausing with him. Those dark eyes fixed on me with an intensity that made my breath catch. Not anger. I would have preferred anger. This was something else. Interest. Assessment. The way a predator might study prey before deciding whether the chase would be worth the effort. Someone in his group said something low and urgent. He didn't respond, didn't break eye contact with me. One of his men stepped forward, and I saw the subtle bulge under his jacket. A weapon. These weren't businessmen or celebrities. This was something darker. Something that made my instincts scream danger even as my rational mind tried to catalog and categorize. A bead of champagne dripped from my fingertips onto the broken glass. I said kitchen. My manager yanked me to my feet, hauling me backward. The spell broke. The man turned away, guided toward the private dining room by his security. But just before he disappeared through the velvet curtains, he glanced back. Our eyes met for a fraction of a second. Then he was gone, and I was being shoved through the swinging doors into the harsh fluorescent brightness of the kitchen. What the hell were you thinking? My manager's face had gone red, spittle gathering at the corners of his mouth. Do you know who that is? Do you have any idea what kind of trouble? I'm sorry, I interrupted, my voice smaller than I wanted it to be. It was an accident. I'll pay for the glass. I'll pay for it. You think that's the problem? He laughed, sharp and humorless. That was Dante Moretti. Dante. Moretti. The name meant nothing to me but the way he said it. Like an incantation, like a curse, made my stomach tighten. I don't... Get out, he said. You're done for the night. I'll call you if we need you again, which we probably won't. The words hit like a physical blow. I needed this job. Desperately needed it. Please, Mr. Chen, I can't afford out. I stumbled into the service corridor, my manager's office door slamming behind me. The sound echoed off the concrete walls, final and condemning. My hand still shook as I retrieved my coat from the employee closet. A threadbare thing that had been nice 5 years ago, before the washing machine had mangled the lining and the buttons had started falling off. The service exit opened into an alley that smelled of garbage and rain. I stood under the narrow awning, watching water cascade off the edge like a curtain. No umbrella. Of course I didn't have an umbrella. My phone buzzed again. Marcus. Then my mother. Then a notification from the electric company about an overdue bill. I turned the phone off and shoved it into my pocket. How had my life become this? 23 years old with a useless art history degree, drowning in debt, losing jobs for dropping champagne glasses. My apartment, if I could even call Marcus's moldy basement room an apartment, waited for me across the city, 40 minutes on 2 different buses if they were running on time, if I could afford the fare. I pulled my coat tighter and stepped into the rain. Miss. The voice came from behind me, deep and smooth like expensive whiskey. I spun around, my heart launching into my throat. One of the security men stood in the service entrance. The one who'd stepped forward earlier. The one with the gun. Up close. He was massive. At least 6'4", with the kind of build that came from serious gym time and possibly steroids. A scar cut through his left eyebrow. Mr. Moretti would like to speak with you, he said. What? My voice came out as a squeak. Why? He didn't share his reasons. The man's expression remained neutral, but something in his stance suggested this wasn't a request I could decline. This way, please. Every survival instinct I possessed screamed at me to run. Strange men, dark alleys, guns. Nothing good came from this combination. But my feet followed him anyway, drawn by curiosity or stupidity, or maybe just the exhaustion of having nothing left to lose. He led me back through the service entrance, but instead of returning to the kitchen, we took a side corridor. Our footsteps echoed on polished concrete. The sounds of the restaurant faded, replaced by my own ragged breathing and the whisper of expensive fabric as the security guard moved ahead of me. We stopped at a door marked private. He knocked twice, a rhythmic pattern that was clearly a signal. Enter, came a voice from inside. That same voice that had probably ordered my manager to clear the room. Rich, confident, accustomed to being obeyed. The security guard opened the door and gestured for me to go inside. The private dining room was smaller than I'd imagined, intimate in a way that made my throat tighten. Soft lighting from crystal sconces. Dark wood paneling. A table set for 8, though only 1 seat was occupied. Dante Moretti sat at the head of the table, a glass of red wine in his hand. He'd removed his jacket, and I could see the way his shirt fit across his chest, the way his sleeves were rolled up to reveal forearms marked with what looked like ink, tattoos disappearing under the fabric. His security team was positioned around the room, shadows in expensive suits. "Close the door," he said, not to me but to the guard. It clicked shut behind me. The sound felt like a coffin lid closing. "Come here." I stayed frozen by the door, his eyes lifted to mine, and I saw amusement flicker across his face. "I'm not going to hurt you. If I wanted to hurt you, we wouldn't be having this conversation." Somehow, that wasn't as reassuring as he probably intended, but I walked forward anyway, each step feeling like I was wading through deep water. The carpet beneath my feet was so thick I couldn't hear my own footfalls. I stopped about 6 feet from the table, close enough to be conversational, but far enough to run if needed, as if running would help. "What's your name?" he asked. "Elena." My voice sounded strange, too high, too breathless. I cleared my throat. "Elena Cross. Elena." He said it slowly, tasting each syllable. "That's pretty. Sit down, Elena." "I should get back to work. My manager—" "Your manager will do whatever I tell him to do." He gestured to the chair beside him. "Sit." I sat, this close I could smell him. Cologne, something dark and woody with hints of citrus. Expensive. Everything about him was expensive, from his perfectly trimmed hair to the watch on his wrist that probably cost more than a year of my rent. But underneath the polish, there was something else, something dangerous. It radiated from him like heat, an unspoken warning that this was a man who got what he wanted. He studied me for a long moment, his gaze traveling from my damp hair to my worn shoes and back again. I fought the urge to squirm, to apologize for my appearance, to explain that I owned better clothes but couldn't afford to replace my work uniform. "Do you know who I am?" he asked finally. "My manager said your name is Dante Moretti. And does that name mean anything to you?" I shook my head, then wondered if that was the wrong answer. Maybe I should have lied, pretended to know, to be impressed. But something told me this man would spot a lie instantly. "Good," he said, and I saw something that might have been satisfaction cross his features. "That's refreshing." One of his security guards stepped forward with a wine glass, pouring from the same bottle Dante was drinking. The guard set it in front of me without a word, then retreated to his position by the wall. "I don't drink," Dante said. "You look like you need it." He wasn't wrong. My hand still trembled slightly as I lifted the glass. The wine was rich and complex, probably worth more than I made in a week. It slid down my throat like liquid velvet, warming me from the inside. "Better?" he asked. "Yes. Thank you." I set the glass down carefully, terrified I might drop it too. "Mr. Moretti, I don't understand why." "Do you have a boyfriend, Elena?" The question hit me like a slap. I blinked, certain I'd misheard. "What? A boyfriend?" His voice remained casual, but something had shifted in his posture. A tension that hadn't been there before. "Do you have one?" Not yet." The words left my mouth before I could think about them. Not yet. As if I were planning to acquire one soon, as if I had prospects waiting in the wings, instead of an empty apartment and mounting debt. As if my life had room for romance when I couldn't even afford bus fare. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. The wine glass in his hand paused halfway to his lips. "Not yet," he repeated, his voice dropping an octave. "What exactly does that mean?" "I just mean I'm not dating anyone right now," I said quickly, suddenly aware that my answer had triggered something in him. The air in the room had changed, grown heavier. His security team hadn't moved, but I could feel their attention sharpening, focusing on me with new intensity. I'm too busy with work and... "Not yet" implies future tense. Dante set his wine glass down with controlled precision, the base meeting the table without a sound. "It implies you're looking, that you have someone in mind." "No, I don't. It was just a figure of speech." My pulse hammered in my throat. Why did this matter? Why was he looking at me like I'd committed some offense? "I don't have time to date. I work 2 jobs. I'm barely keeping my head above water, so... No. There's no boyfriend, no prospects, no anything." The confession spilled out before I could stop it, and immediately I wanted to take it back. He didn't need to know how pathetic my life was. Nobody needed to know that. But something in his expression shifted. The tension in his jaw relaxed fractionally. He leaned back in his chair, studying me with those dark eyes that seemed to catalog every detail. The way my teeth worried at my lower lip, the nervous flutter of my hands in my lap, the patches on my uniform where the fabric had worn thin. 2 jobs, he said. What's the other one? I work mornings at a coffee shop in Midtown, the Morning Brew. I wrapped my hands around the wine glass, needing something to hold on to. Or I did. They cut my hours last month because business was slow. So you're struggling, it wasn't a question. But I nodded anyway. There was no point in pretending otherwise. He could probably calculate my net worth just by looking at my shoes. And your family? They can't help? I laughed, sharp and humorless. My mother remarried a guy who thinks I'm a waste of space. My father's been gone since I was 6. So no, my family can't help. It's just me. Why was I telling him this stranger, this dangerous stranger with his armed guards and his aura of barely contained violence? But something about the way he listened, the complete focus of his attention, made the words pour out like water from a broken dam. Just you, he echoed. One of his guards shifted slightly, and Dante's hand moved in a subtle gesture. Stay back. The guard froze. That's a lonely position to be in, Elena. It's fine. I'm used to it. Are you? He reached for the wine bottle, refilling both our glasses. His movements were economical, practiced. Everything he did seemed intentional, calculated. You work yourself to exhaustion in places where people don't even see you. You wear shoes with holes in them because you can't afford new ones. You drop a glass and get fired for it. That sounds less like fine and more like drowning. The accuracy of his assessment stole my breath. I stared at him. This man I'd met less than 20 minutes ago, who somehow saw more of me than people I'd known for years. I'll survive, I managed. I always do. Surviving isn't the same as living. He took a slow sip of wine, his eyes never leaving mine. Tell me something, Elena. When was the last time someone took care of you? The question hit somewhere deep in my chest, a place I'd buried under layers of necessity and survival. I couldn't remember. My mother had checked out emotionally years ago. Friends had drifted away when I couldn't afford to go out anymore. Even Marcus, my landlord, saw me as nothing more than a check that rarely cleared. I take care of myself, I said, but my voice cracked on the last word. That's what I thought. Dante stood, and I instinctively pressed back in my chair. He noticed, stopping a few feet away. I have a proposition for you. I'm not... Terror flooded through me. I knew what men like him wanted from girls like me. I'd heard the stories, seen the news reports. I'm not interested in that kind of... Let me finish. His voice cut through my panic, firm but not unkind. I need someone for a specific position. Personal assistant of sorts. The work isn't difficult. Manage my schedule, handle correspondence, accompany me to certain events. In exchange, you'll receive a salary of $10,000 a month, plus housing in one of my properties. I blinked. Surely I'd misheard. 10,000 a month? Plus housing, he repeated. Full benefits. Healthcare, dental, the works. Your only job would be to be available when I need you. It sounded too good to be true, which meant it definitely was. Why me? I asked, proud that my voice stayed steady. You could hire anyone. Someone qualified, someone with experience. Why would you offer this to a waitress who just dropped a glass of champagne? A smile ghosted across his lips. The first real expression I'd seen from him. It transformed his face, made him look younger, almost approachable. Almost. Because you don't know who I am, he said simply. Because you looked at me like I was a man, not a monster or a god. And because... He paused, something flickering in his eyes that I couldn't name. Because I think you need saving, Elena, and I need someone who doesn't come with expectations or connections to my world. Your world, I repeated slowly. What exactly is your world, Mr. Moretti? Call me Dante. He returned to his seat, settling back with the ease of someone completely comfortable with power. As for my world, let's just say I operate in spaces where traditional rules don't always apply. Business mostly. Import and export. Various investments. I'm a busy man, and I need someone I can trust to handle the details. Every word was carefully chosen, revealing nothing while suggesting everything. Import and export could mean anything. Various investments could cover a multitude of sins, and the way his security team carried themselves, the way my manager had reacted to his name. This wasn't just some eccentric millionaire looking for an assistant. "You're involved in something illegal," I said. One of the guards tensed. Dante held up a hand, stopping whatever response had been about to come. "I'm involved in many things," he said carefully. "Some occupy gray areas. But I promise you this, Elena, whatever I do, whoever I am, you will never be asked to participate in anything that would put you in legal jeopardy. You would be my assistant, not my accomplice. Your hands stay clean, but I struggled for the right word. Criminal felt too harsh. Businessman felt too soft. "You're someone people are afraid of." Yes. No denial, no deflection. Just simple honesty. People are afraid of me because I have power, and power makes people uncomfortable, especially when they can't control it. But I'm not offering you fear, Elena. I'm offering you stability, safety, a life where you don't have to choose between rent and food. I wanted to say no. Every rational part of my brain screamed that this was wrong, dangerous, the kind of decision that ended badly in every story ever told. You didn't accept job offers from men with armed guards. You didn't take money from people who operated in gray areas. But God, I was so tired. Tired of being invisible. Tired of counting pennies and wearing shoes with holes and watching my dreams shrink down to nothing more than surviving one more day. $10,000 a month was more than I'd make in 6 months at both my jobs combined. Housing meant not sleeping in Marcus's basement, not listening to pipes bang and rats scratch in the walls. "I need time to think about it," I said finally. "No." The word was gentle, but absolute. "I need an answer now. This offer expires when you walk out that door." "That's not fair." "Life isn't fair, Elena. You should know that better than anyone." He leaned forward, close enough that I could see flecks of amber in his dark eyes. "I'm offering you a way out of the hole you're in, a chance to breathe. But I need to know you're committed, that you won't run scared the moment things get complicated. So decide, now." My mother's face flashed through my mind, twisted with disappointment. Marcus's threats about eviction. The coffee shop manager who'd stopped putting me on the schedule. The weight of my student loans, growing heavier every month like a stone around my neck. What did I have to lose that I hadn't already lost? "Okay," I whispered. "Yes, I'll take the job." Something blazed in Dante's eyes. Triumph, satisfaction, something fiercer that made my stomach flip. "Good. Marco will drive you home to collect your things. You'll move into your new apartment tonight." "Tonight? But I need to give notice, and my landlord is 3 months behind on property taxes and facing foreclosure." Dante pulled out his phone, typing something quickly. "I'll have my attorney settle your accounts. You won't owe anyone anything." "How did you know?" But of course he knew. Men like him knew everything. They had resources, connections, ways of finding information that ordinary people couldn't imagine. "You had me investigated. I make it a point to know who I'm dealing with." He stood, and this time I didn't flinch away. "Marco will also take you shopping tomorrow. You'll need appropriate clothing for your new position. Put everything on the account he provides. Don't worry about cost." My head spun. This was happening too fast. 20 minutes ago I'd been a fired waitress standing in the rain. Now I had a new job, a new apartment, a new life being assembled around me like pieces of a puzzle I hadn't known I was part of. "I don't understand why you're doing this," I said, standing on shaky legs. "There has to be a catch. Nobody just... The catch is that when I call, you answer. When I need you, you come. Your time belongs to me now, Elena." His hand reached out, tucking a strand of damp hair behind my ear. The gesture was almost tender, but his touch burned like a brand. "All of your time. Is that understood?" I should have stepped back, should have put distance between us, but I stood frozen, pinned by his gaze and his proximity, and the strange mixture of fear and something else that coiled in my stomach. "What about dating?" The question escaped before I could stop it. "You asked if I had a boyfriend. Does working for you mean I can't?" His expression darkened instantly. The almost tender man vanished, replaced by something cold and possessive. His hand moved from my hair to my chin, tilting my face up to meet his eyes. "You said, 'Not yet,'" he murmured, his voice dropping to something dangerous. "That implies you're open to the possibility that someone might catch your interest, that you might give your attention to someone other than me." I didn't mean... Here's what you need to understand." His thumb traced along my jawline, a gesture that should have been gentle, but felt like a claim. "I don't share, Elena. What's mine stays mine, and as of this moment, you're mine. Your time, your attention, your future plans for boyfriends, all mine." "That's not... You can't just..." "I can." His eyes held mine, unflinching. "I am. If that's a problem, walk away now. Return to your moldy basement and your minimum wage jobs and your slow spiral into nothing. But if you stay, if you accept what I'm offering, then you accept all of it, including this." His fingers tightened fractionally on my chin. Not enough to hurt, but enough to make his point crystal clear. I should have been terrified, should have thrown the wine in his face and run for the door. Instead, I felt something else entirely, a sick thrill that I didn't want to examine too closely, like standing at the edge of a cliff, knowing you shouldn't jump but feeling the pull anyway. "I'm not property," I said, proud that my voice didn't shake. "No," he agreed. "You're not property. You're mine. There's a difference." "I don't see how..." "You will." He released me, stepping back. The loss of his touch felt like a physical thing, a vacuum where warmth had been. "Marco will take you home now. Pack light. Everything you need will be provided." He turned away, dismissing me with the gesture. One of the guards, Marco, apparently, appeared at my elbow, ready to escort me out. "Wait," I said. Dante glanced back, one eyebrow raised. "What if I meet someone before... whatever this is? What if I already have feelings for someone?" It was a lie. I had no one. Felt nothing for anyone except a vague loneliness that had become so familiar I barely noticed it anymore. But I needed to know how far his control extended, how tight this new cage would be. His jaw clenched. He crossed the distance between us in 2 strides, backing me against the wall so fast my head spun. His hands slammed against the paneling on either side of my face, caging me in. "Do you?" he demanded, his voice razor-sharp. "Is there someone?" "No," I admitted, hating how small I sounded, "but there could be. Someday. You can't expect me to just..." "I expect exactly that." His face was inches from mine, close enough that I could feel his breath on my lips. "You belong to me now, Elena, every minute of every day. And if I find out you've been looking at other men, thinking about other men, even dreaming about other men..." He paused, and I saw something feral flash in his eyes. "Well, let's just say you won't like the consequences." "That's insane," I breathed. "Probably." A dark smile curved his lips. "But you already said yes, and I don't give second chances." He pushed away from the wall, leaving me shaking. Marco's hand appeared in my peripheral vision, gesturing toward the door. I followed him on numb legs, my mind reeling. What had I just agreed to? What had I just become? At the door, I looked back one last time. Dante had returned to his seat, his wine glass in hand, but his eyes tracked my every movement. Possessive, hungry, like I was something he'd hunted and captured, and had no intention of ever releasing. The door closed behind me with a soft click, and I knew, with bone-deep certainty, that my life had just changed forever. The apartment Marco drove me to wasn't an apartment. It was a penthouse that occupied the entire top floor of a building in the financial district. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the city, light spreading out like a carpet of stars. Marble floors, modern furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum, a kitchen with appliances I didn't even know the names for. "Mr. Moretti had it prepared for you," Marco said, setting down the single garbage bag that contained everything I owned. Against the backdrop of luxury, it looked even more pathetic than usual. "The closet has some basics until you go shopping tomorrow. I'll pick you up at 9. Then he left, and I was alone in a space that cost more per month than I'd earned in my entire life. I didn't sleep that night. I wandered from room to room, 3 bedrooms, each larger than Marcus's entire basement, touching surfaces to confirm they were real. The bathroom had heated floors and a tub big enough to swim in. The walk-in closet held exactly what Marco had promised, basics. Except these basics were cashmere and silk, designer labels I recognized from magazines, everything in my size. Of course it was. Dante had known my measurements just like he'd known about Marcus's property taxes. The thought should have disturbed me more than it did. At dawn, I stood at the windows and watched the city wake up. Somewhere down there, my old life continued without me. The coffee shop would open. Celestia would prepare for lunch service. Marcus would discover I'd vanished without paying my final month's rent, though apparently Dante's attorney had already handled that too. I'd ceased to exist in that world and materialized in this one, like magic, like a fairy tale. Except fairy tales didn't usually involve men with guns and possessive demands about hypothetical boyfriends. My phone buzzed. A new number, unsaved. Eat breakfast. Marco arrives at 9. Don't be late. I stared at the message. He was already checking on me, already establishing patterns of control. I should have felt trapped. Instead, I felt something else. Something I didn't want to name. The refrigerator was fully stocked. Of course it was. I made coffee in a machine that probably cost more than my college textbooks and ate yogurt while the sun climbed higher. At exactly 9, Marco knocked. The shopping trip was surreal. Marco drove me to boutiques that didn't have prices on anything, where salespeople appeared instantly with champagne and knowing smiles. He handed me a black credit card with Dante's name embossed in silver. Mr. Moretti's instructions are clear, Marco said, settling into a chair while 3 women began pulling dresses from racks, professional wardrobe for business events, evening wear for dinners and galas, casual clothes for daily wear, shoes, accessories, everything you need. Don't worry about price tags. This is too much, I protested, as a woman held up a dress that looked like it cost more than a car payment. I can't. You can, and you will. Marco's voice was firm, but not unkind. Mr. Moretti wants you properly outfitted. Arguing wastes time. So I stopped arguing. By noon, I'd accumulated more clothing than I'd owned in my entire life. The saleswomen cooed over me, treating me like I belonged in these spaces, like I was someone who mattered. You have beautiful bone structure, one of them said, pinning my hair up to show how a necklace would fall. Mr. Moretti chose. Like I was a purchase, a thing he'd selected from a catalog. We were leaving the 4th boutique when I saw her. She stood across the street, partially hidden by a parked car, but I recognized her immediately. The diamond bracelet caught the light, the same one I'd noticed at Celestia, the woman who hadn't looked up when I'd walked past. Now she was staring directly at me. Our eyes met for a fraction of a second. Then she turned and walked away, disappearing into the lunch crowd. Marco, I said quietly. That woman. I saw her. His hand moved to his jacket where I knew he kept a gun. Stay close to me. Who is she? Someone who shouldn't be here. He guided me to the car with subtle urgency, his body positioned between me and the street. Mr. Moretti will want to know about this. Mun. The drive back to the penthouse took 20 minutes. Marco made 3 phone calls in rapid Italian, his voice clipped and tense. I caught Dante's name several times, and once, clearly. Lei è in pericolo. She's in danger. Fear crystallized in my chest. Marco, what's going on? Who was that woman? Not my place to explain, Miss Cross. He pulled into the building's private garage, the heavy gate closing behind us with finality. Mr. Moretti will speak with you shortly. Shortly turned out to be 30 minutes. I'd just finished hanging up the mountain of new clothes when my phone buzzed. Stay in the apartment. I'm coming up. D. The elevator opened directly into the penthouse, a security feature I hadn't noticed before. Dante stepped out flanked by 2 guards, his expression darker than I'd ever seen it. He'd changed from last night's formal suit to something more casual, black pants, a charcoal shirt with the sleeves rolled up. The tattoos I'd glimpsed were more visible now, intricate patterns that snaked up his forearms, but it was his face that caught my attention. The muscle jumping in his jaw, the cold fury in his eyes. Bedroom, he said. Now. The guards remained in the living room. I led him to the master bedroom, my heart hammering. He closed the door behind us, leaning against it like he was physically restraining himself from something. "Tell me exactly what you saw," he demanded. I described the woman, the way she'd been watching, how she disappeared when Marco noticed her. Dante listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with each detail. "Her name is Vittoria Castellano," he said when I finished. "She's the widow of a man I had business dealings with, dealings that ended poorly." "Poorly how?" "He tried to kill me. I killed him first. No emotion, just fact. His wife blames me for her widowhood. She's been making threats for months, but I didn't think she'd be stupid enough to actually—" He stopped, running a hand through his hair. "You shouldn't have been exposed like that. Marco should have been more careful. It's not his fault. We didn't know. It's my fault." He crossed the room to me, his hands gripping my shoulders. "I brought you into this world without properly protecting you. That changes now." "What do you mean?" "You don't leave this apartment without security. You don't go anywhere without telling me first. And when you're out," his grip tightened fractionally, "you stay alert. If you see anyone following you, anyone watching you, you call me immediately. Not Marco, me." "Dante, I didn't sign up for people trying to kill me." "She won't kill you." His voice dropped to something deadly. "Because I'm going to make it very clear what happens to anyone who threatens what's mine. But until that message is received and understood, you follow my rules. Completely. No arguments." I should have been terrified. A mob widow following me, a man casually admitting to murder, guards with guns becoming a permanent fixture in my life. But looking into Dante's eyes, I saw something that made my breath catch. Genuine fear. Not for himself, but for me. "You're worried about me," I said softly. "Of course I'm worried about you." His hands moved from my shoulders to frame my face, his thumbs brushing my cheekbones. "You're mine to protect now, Elena. That means I don't let anything happen to you. Ever." The possessiveness should have felt suffocating. Instead, it felt like being wrapped in something warm and solid after years of standing in the cold. Someone actually cared if I lived or died. Someone would notice if I disappeared. When was the last time anyone had protected me from anything? "I'm not fragile," I said, but my voice came out whisper soft. "I've survived this long on my own. You shouldn't have had to." His forehead pressed against mine, his breath mingling with my own. "And you won't anymore. Not while I'm breathing." We stood like that for a long moment, suspended in something that felt too intimate, too raw. I could feel his heartbeat through his shirt, fast and hard. Could smell his cologne mixing with something uniquely him. "Why me?" I asked again. "Really? Not the answer you gave last night. The real reason." His jaw clenched. For a moment I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "You looked at me like I was human. You are human. Not to most people." He pulled back enough to meet my eyes. "To them, I'm a monster, a necessary evil, someone to fear and use and dispose of when convenient. But you dropped that glass, and you didn't see a crime lord or a killer. You just saw a man. Someone who made you nervous because he was paying attention to you, not because of who he is. I didn't know who you were. Exactly." A ghost of a smile. "You do now, though. Are you afraid?" I should have lied. Should have said yes, that I was terrified, that I wanted out of this arrangement, but I'd never been good at lying. "A little," I admitted, "but not as much as I should be." "Why not?" "Because—" I struggled to find words for something I barely understood myself. "Because you look at me like I matter. Like I'm worth protecting. And I haven't felt that in, I can't remember how long." Something shifted in his expression. Triumph and satisfaction and something fiercer. His hand slid to the back of my neck, his fingers tangling in my hair. "You matter," he said, his voice low and intense. "To me, you matter more than you should, more than is smart or safe." "And that's a problem, Elena. Because I don't do things halfway. When I want something, I take it. When I claim something, I keep it, and I've claimed you. I'm not a thing to be claimed. No, you're not. His grip tightened in my hair, not painful, but possessive. You're the woman who's going to drive me insane with this ridiculous notion that you could ever belong to anyone else. This not yet nonsense. There is no yet, Elena. There's only now, and me. And this... He kissed me. It wasn't gentle or tentative or any of the things a first kiss should be. It was claiming, demanding, a brand that seared through every rational thought I possessed. His mouth moved against mine with the same intensity he brought to everything else, like he was trying to prove a point or win an argument I hadn't known we were having. I should have pushed him away, should have reminded him about professional boundaries and appropriate employer behavior. Instead, my hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer. He made a sound low in his throat, satisfaction, hunger. His arm wrapped around my waist, lifting me slightly as he deepened the kiss. I felt dizzy, overwhelmed, like I was falling and being caught simultaneously. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. That, he said roughly, is why there's no not yet. Because I've decided you're mine, and I don't change my mind. You can't just decide. He released me slowly, watch me, like he didn't trust himself to let go. I have business to handle. Vittoria needs to understand that touching you means death. Marco will stay here with you until I return. I don't need a babysitter. You have one anyway. He headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Elena, don't even think about testing me on this. No going out alone. No meeting friends. No anything without clearing it with me first. Because if I find out you've put yourself at risk... His eyes held mine, deadly serious. You won't like the consequences. Then he was gone, the elevator doors closing behind him. I sank onto the bed, my fingers touching my lips. They still tingled from his kiss. My whole body felt electrified, like I'd grabbed a live wire and couldn't let go. What had I gotten myself into? My phone buzzed. Another message from Dante. Get used to being protected. Get used to being watched. Get used to being mine. Because I'm never letting you go. D. I stared at the words, my heart racing. A normal person would have been terrified. But I wasn't normal anymore. I was something else now, something that belonged in Dante's world of shadows and danger and possessive claims. And God help me. I wasn't sure I wanted to escape. 3 weeks passed in a blur of luxury and surveillance. True to his word, Dante assigned security to me. Not just Marco, but a rotating team of guards who followed me everywhere. To the grocery store. Not that I needed groceries anymore, since meals appeared in my refrigerator like magic. To the gym in the building's lower level. Even to the salon when Marco insisted I needed my hair done for an upcoming event. I was never alone, never unwatched. And somehow, impossibly, I was starting to forget what my old life had felt like. The coffee shop seemed like a memory from someone else's existence. The basement apartment, the constant worry about money, the bone-deep exhaustion, all of it had evaporated like morning fog. Now I woke up in Egyptian cotton sheets, ate breakfast prepared by a private chef, wore clothes that cost more than I used to make in a month. Dante had given me everything except freedom. He called every morning at 7, never a minute earlier or later. Always the same questions. Did you sleep well? Have you eaten? Is there anything you need? The questions seemed innocent enough. But I heard what lay beneath them. Constant monitoring, an invisible leash that kept me tethered to him, even when he wasn't physically present, which was often. His business kept him busy most days. He'd disappear for hours, sometimes overnight, returning with shadows under his eyes and blood on his knuckles that he'd washed away, but not quite well enough. I learned not to ask questions. Learned that his world operated by rules I didn't understand and probably didn't want to, but at night, he came to the penthouse, never with warning. The elevator would open around 10 or 11, and he'd be there, suit jacket discarded, tie loosened, looking simultaneously exhausted and wired. He'd pour himself scotch from the bar, settle onto the couch, and motion for me to sit beside him. We'd talk. About nothing and everything. Books I'd read. Places I'd traveled before. Money became an issue. Dreams I'd had before survival became my only goal. He listened like every word mattered. His dark eyes fixed on my face with that same intensity that had captured me in the restaurant, and sometimes he'd pull me into his lap and kiss me until I forgot why I'd ever thought resisting him was possible. But he never pushed further, never took more than those devastating kisses that left me trembling and confused, like he was waiting for something, permission maybe, or surrender. I wasn't sure which I was more afraid to give. "You're thinking too hard," Dante said one evening, his fingers tracing patterns on my knee. We sat on the terrace, the city spread below us like a living painting. "I can see your mind working. What's bothering you?" "Nothing," I lied. His hand stilled. "Don't do that. Don't hide from me. I'm not hiding. I struggled for words. "I don't understand what this is, what we are. You say I'm yours, but we haven't what?" His voice dropped, dangerous and amused. "Haven't fucked?" Heat flooded my face. I wouldn't have put it that way, but yes. Because once I have you that way, Elena, there's no going back. He turned me to face him, his hands firm on my waist. "Right now, you could still walk away. You could still convince yourself this is just a job, that I'm just your employer, that what you feel for me is gratitude or fear or anything, except what it actually is." "And what is it?" I whispered. "Obsession." His thumb traced my lower lip. "Recognition. The acknowledgement that you belong to me in ways that have nothing to do with money or protection. But once we cross that line, once I make you mine in every sense of the word, you'll never be able to pretend otherwise." My breath caught. "You say that like you know what I feel." "I do know." His eyes bored into mine, because I feel it too, this sick, twisted need to possess you completely. To mark you so thoroughly that every other man knows to stay away. To keep you locked in this tower like some fairy tale princess, except I'm no prince, Elena. I'm the dragon. Dragons don't protect princesses. This one does. He kissed me softly, a contrast to his harsh words. This one burns down anyone who threatens what's his. As if summoning the devil, his phone buzzed. He pulled it out, his expression darkening as he read the message. "What is it?" I asked. Vittoria made her move. He stood, already texting back. "She hired someone to break into one of my warehouses. Tried to frame it as a police investigation. Get me arrested on weapons charges. Did it work? Of course not." He smiled, cold and predatory. "I have judges and police captains on my payroll, but she's getting bolder, more desperate. Which means more dangerous, fear twisted in my stomach. She's still after you. After us," he corrected. "She knows the fastest way to hurt me is through you. Which is why—" He paused, studying me carefully. "You're coming with me tomorrow night. Coming where?" "To a meeting. With families who operate in the same circles I do. It's time they met you. Time they understood that you're under my protection. That hurting you means declaring war on me." The word families carried weight I didn't fully understand, but I caught the implication. Other crime lords, other dangerous men with their own territories and rules and vendettas. "Is that safe?" I asked. "Safer than leaving you here." He cupped my face in his hands. "I can't protect you if I can't see you. And after tomorrow night, everyone will know. You belong to Dante Moretti. Touch you, and they die." There was something almost romantic in the way he said it, like a declaration of love filtered through violence and possession. "What do I need to do?" I asked. "Wear the red dress Marco picked up yesterday. Stay beside me. Let them look but never touch, and trust that I won't let anything happen to you." "I do trust you," I realized aloud. "I shouldn't, but I do." "Good." He kissed my forehead, gentle and possessive, "Because tomorrow night, the entire underworld is going to see exactly who you are to me. And there's no coming back from that, Elena. Once they know, once it's public, you're mine forever. Is that understood?" I should have said no. Should have demanded he take me somewhere safe, somewhere far from mob meetings and rival families and women who wanted revenge. But looking into his eyes, seeing the fierce protectiveness mixed with absolute certainty, I found myself nodding. Yes, I whispered. I understand. My perfect girl. The praise sent warmth through my chest. Now go inside and rest. Tomorrow's going to be a long night. The dress was stunning, blood-red silk that clung to every curve and fell to the floor in a cascade of fabric. Marco had somehow known my exact measurements, down to the last inch. With it came shoes that made my legs look endless, and jewelry that probably cost more than my old car. A stylist arrived at 4 to do my hair and makeup. She transformed me into someone I barely recognized, sophisticated, elegant, dangerous in my own right. The woman in the mirror looked like she belonged in Dante's world. Maybe I was starting to. Dante arrived at 7, flanked by 4 guards. He stopped in the doorway when he saw me, his expression shifting from business to something predatory. Christo, he breathed. You're going to start a war looking like that. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Both. He crossed to me, his hand settling possessively on my waist. Every man there is going to want you. And I'm going to have to remind them that wanting and having are very different things. The drive to the meeting took 40 minutes, heading out of the city into countryside I'd never seen before. We pulled up to a massive estate. Mansion didn't begin to cover it. It sprawled across manicured grounds, lit up like a castle from a dream, or a nightmare. Stay close to me, Dante murmured as Marco opened our door. Don't speak unless spoken to. Don't drink anything I haven't approved. And if anyone makes you uncomfortable, you tell me immediately. You're making this sound very dangerous. It is dangerous. His hand found mine, squeezing gently. These people are predators, Elena. They'll smile and compliment you while calculating how to use you against me. Your only job tonight is to be beautiful and untouchable. Can you do that? I nodded, though my heart hammered against my ribs. Inside, the mansion was even more impressive. Marble everywhere, crystal chandeliers, artwork that belonged in museums. And people. So many people. Men in expensive suits, women dripping in diamonds, everyone beautiful and polished and radiating the kind of power that came from violence and money in equal measure. They all turned when we entered. Dante's hand tightened on my waist as whispers rippled through the room. I caught fragments of conversation in multiple languages: Italian, Russian, Spanish. My name wasn't mentioned, but I felt myself being assessed, catalogued, judged. Dante! A man approached, arms spread in greeting. He was older, maybe 60, with silver hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Finally, you grace us with your presence, and you brought a guest. Elena, Dante said, his voice carrying an edge of warning. This is Giovanni Russo. He controls the ports on the east side. Enchanted, Giovanni said, taking my hand and kissing it. His lips were cold, reptilian. Such beauty. You've outdone yourself, Dante. I didn't think you had it in you to settle down. I haven't settled. Dante pulled me closer, removing my hand from Giovanni's grasp. I've claimed. There's a difference. Indeed. Giovanni's eyes raked over me in a way that made my skin crawl. Well, congratulations. Though I hope you're prepared for the complications that come with keeping such a prize. I'm prepared for anything, Dante said flatly. We moved through the room, repeating variations of the same conversation. Each man Dante introduced me to assessed me with calculating eyes. Each woman stared with barely concealed jealousy or contempt. I smiled and stayed silent, playing my part as Dante's beautiful accessory, until she walked in. Vittoria Castellano was stunning in a way that went beyond physical beauty. She wore mourning black that should have looked somber but instead looked lethal. Dark hair swept up to reveal a long neck. Red lips curved in a smile that promised violence. The room went quiet. Dante, she said, her voice carrying across the space. How wonderful to see you. And this must be your new pet. Dante's entire body went rigid. His hand on my waist turned to iron. Vittoria, he said carefully, you weren't invited. Giovanni extended his hospitality. She glided closer, her heels clicking on marble. After all, we're all family here, aren't we? United by business and blood. Though some of us have spilled more blood than others. She stopped directly in front of us, her eyes fixed on me with undisguised hatred. "You must be Elena," she continued. "The little waitress who caught a dragon's attention." "How quaint." "Walk away," Dante said, his voice dropping to something deadly. "Now. Or what? You'll kill me like you killed my husband?" Her smile widened. "In front of all these witnesses? I don't think so, Dante. Even you aren't that brazen. Test me." The air between them crackled with violence. I could feel Dante's muscles coiling, preparing for something. Around us, people backed away, creating space. Marco and the other guards moved closer. "I'm not here to fight," Vittoria said. "I'm here to deliver a message. You took someone I loved, so I'm going to take someone you love. Fair is fair." She looked at me when she said it, her eyes glittering with malice. "You touch her," Dante said quietly, "and I will erase your entire bloodline from existence, your cousins, your nephews, everyone who shares your name. I will burn your family to ash and salt the earth where they stood. Do you understand me?" For the first time, I saw fear flicker across Vittoria's face, but she covered it quickly with another smile. "We'll see," she said. Then she turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Dante immediately turned to me, his hands framing my face. "Are you okay? Did she hurt you?" "I'm fine," I said, though I was shaking. She just made a threat in front of 50 witnesses." His jaw clenched. "Which means she's either incredibly stupid or incredibly desperate. Either way, we're leaving. Now." He pulled me toward the exit, his guards forming a protective circle around us. We made it to the car without incident, but I could feel eyes watching from windows, silhouettes tracking our movements. The moment the car door closed, Dante pulled me into his arms. "I'm sorry," he said against my hair. "I shouldn't have brought you here. I thought showing them would protect you, but all I did was paint a target on your back." "She was always going to come after me," I said, "whether I met her tonight or not. That doesn't make this better." He pulled back, his eyes searching my face. "Say the word, Elena. Say you want out, and I'll arrange it. New identity, new city, enough money to live comfortably for the rest of your life. I'll let you go if that's what you want." It was the first time he'd offered me an escape. The first time he'd put my safety above his possession. And I realized, with startling clarity, that I didn't want to go. "No," I said firmly. "I'm not running. I'm not leaving you. Elena, you said I'm yours." I took his face in my hands, mirroring his earlier gesture. "But you're mine too, Dante, and I don't abandon what's mine." Something broke in his expression, relief and wonder and hunger all at once. He kissed me hard, desperate, like I was oxygen and he'd been drowning. "You're going to destroy me," he whispered against my lips. "Good," I whispered back. "Then we'll be even." The war started 3 days later, not with guns or explosions, but with information. Documents appeared on the desks of federal prosecutors, carefully edited records that made it look like Dante was cooperating with authorities, that he'd turned informant against other families. In our world, that was as good as a death sentence. "It's brilliant, actually," Dante said, staring at his laptop screen in the penthouse. Dawn light filtered through the windows, painting him in shades of gold and shadow. He hadn't slept. Neither had I. "She can't kill me directly without starting a war she'd lose, but if she makes the other families think I'm a rat, they'll do it for her." "Can't you just tell them it's fake?" I asked, pouring coffee with shaking hands. "I can tell them. Whether they believe me is another matter." He closed the laptop with careful precision. "Paranoia is currency in this world, Elena. Once doubt is planted, it grows like poison." His phone rang, then rang again, and again. Each call brought worse news. Associates distancing themselves, deals falling through, threats from people who'd been allies yesterday. By noon, Dante had retreated into cold silence, his jaw tight as he made calls and issued orders in rapid Italian. I felt useless, helpless, like I was watching him drown and couldn't reach him. "Let me help," I said finally. "There has to be something I can do. You can stay alive." His eyes met mine, haunted. "That's the only thing I need from you right now." But staying alive became complicated when Marco burst through the door at 3 in the afternoon, his face grave. "We have a problem," he said, The Russians are moving. They're using this opportunity to make a play for your territory. And they've allied with Vittoria. Dante stood so fast, his chair toppled. How many? 20 men, maybe more. They're hitting the warehouse on 5th Street right now. That's a decoy. Dante was already moving, pulling on his jacket, checking the gun at his waist. They want me to respond there while they hit somewhere more valuable. Elena, you're coming with me. I'm not leaving you here unprotected. Dante. Not up for discussion. He grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the elevator. Marco, call everyone. I want every man we have ready to move in 10 minutes. The next hours blurred into chaos. We drove to a building I'd never seen before. Nondescript, industrial, surrounded by chain-link fence. But inside it was a command center, computers, maps, men with weapons preparing for war. Dante installed me in a back office with 2 guards at the door. Stay here. Don't leave for any reason. If shooting starts, you get on the floor and stay there until I come for you. Then he was gone, and I was alone with my fear. I could hear them through the walls, Dante's voice issuing orders, phones ringing constantly, the metallic click of guns being loaded. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I'd known his world was dangerous, but knowing and experiencing were vastly different things. An hour passed, then 2. The sun sank toward the horizon, painting the grimy windows orange and red. Then the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in immediately, bathing everything in eerie red. I heard shouting, running footsteps. One of my guards spoke urgently into his radio. The door burst open, but it wasn't Dante. A man I didn't recognize stood there, gun raised. Behind him, my guards lay motionless on the floor. His face was cold, professional. A killer doing a job. Elena Cross, he said in accented English. You're coming with me. No. I backed away, looking for anything I could use as a weapon. Dante will kill you for this. Dante will be dead by morning. He advanced into the room. Vittoria sends her regards. I grabbed a paperweight from the desk and threw it. He dodged easily, laughing. Spirited. I see why he likes you. He reached for me. I screamed, loud and long, hoping someone would hear. The window exploded inward. Dante came through it like an avenging angel, glass cascading around him. His gun was already up, already firing. The Russian fell, blood blooming across his chest. Dante didn't stop. He moved with lethal grace, clearing the room, checking corners, ensuring no other threats remained. Then he was at my side, his hands running over me frantically. Are you hurt? Did he touch you? Elena, answer me. I'm okay. I gasped. I'm okay. You got here in time. He pulled me against him, his heart hammering. I knew. The moment the lights went out, I knew this was the real target. I knew she'd come for you. The guards? Traitors, paid off by Vittoria. His voice was ice and fury. They're dead now. Everyone who helped plan this is dead now. But we need to move. The building isn't secure anymore. He led me through corridors slick with blood. Past bodies I tried not to look at. Marco appeared, his own gun drawn, blood spattered across his face. The Russians are retreating, he reported. We killed 8 of theirs, lost 3 of ours. And Vittoria, Dante demanded. Gone. She wasn't with them. Dante's jaw clenched. Find her. I don't care what it takes. Find her and bring her to me. We made it to the car, a different one, armored and bulletproof. The drive back to the penthouse felt eternal, every shadow a potential threat. Dante held my hand the entire time, his grip almost painful. Inside the penthouse, he locked us in, and finally let himself show emotion. He slammed his fist into the wall hard enough to crack the plaster. I almost lost you, he said, his voice raw. Another minute and... But you didn't. I caught his damaged hand, examining bloody knuckles. You saved me, like you promised you would. This is my fault, all of it. Vittoria targeted you because of me, because I couldn't let you go, because I'm selfish and possessive and... I kissed him to shut him up, not gentle this time, not tentative. I kissed him with all the fear and adrenaline and desperate relief surging through my veins. I kissed him like he'd saved my life, because he had. He responded instantly, hungrily. His hands tangled in my hair, his body pressing me against the nearest wall. The kiss turned frantic, consuming. Weeks of tension and restraint shattered between us. Elena. He groaned against my mouth. If we do this, no more talking. I pulled at his shirt, buttons scattering across the floor. No more waiting. I choose this. I choose you. Thank God. He breathed. Then he lifted me, my legs wrapping around his waist as he carried me to the bedroom. What happened next was fire and claiming, and everything he'd promised it would be. He made love to me like he was branding me, possessing me, ensuring I'd never forget who I belonged to, and I gave as good as I got, marking him with my nails, my teeth, my breathless demands for more. Afterward, we lay tangled together, my head on his chest, his fingers tracing patterns on my spine. I love you, he said into the darkness. I didn't mean to, didn't plan for it, but I love you so completely, it terrifies me. Tears pricked my eyes. I love you too, even though you're a criminal and possessive and probably insane. Definitely insane, he agreed, pressing a kiss to my hair. You make me insane. So what happens now? I asked. With Victoria, with the Russians, with... Now I end it. His voice hardened. Tomorrow I'm calling a meeting, all the families, everyone who matters, and I'm going to make them choose. Stand with me or stand against me. Victoria's pushed this too far. She broke the rules by coming after you. They'll see that. And when they do, I'll have permission to end her permanently. And if they don't see it, then we go to war, and I burn everything down until you're safe. The certainty in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, it made me feel cherished, protected, loved in a way I'd never experienced. I'm not leaving you, I said firmly. No matter what happens, I'm staying. I know. His arms tightened around me. You're as stubborn as I am. It's infuriating. You love it. I love you, he corrected. There's a difference. The meeting happened 2 days later at neutral ground, a hotel conference room that had been swept for bugs and weapons. Every major family sent representatives. The room crackled with tension and barely suppressed violence. Dante stood at the head of the table, me beside him. He'd insisted I be there, wanted them to see what this was really about. Vittoria Castellano broke our most sacred rule, he began without preamble. She targeted an innocent, a woman with no connection to our business, no blood on her hands. She did this solely to hurt me, and in doing so, she endangered all of us. Your woman is hardly innocent if she's involved with you, someone interjected. She's involved with me, Dante said coldly. Not with our business. She doesn't know our operations, doesn't participate in our decisions. By every definition that matters, she's a civilian, and civilians are off limits. That's been our code for 50 years. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. Vittoria lost her husband, another voice said. Giovanni Russo, looking uncomfortable. She has a right to grieve. She has a right to challenge me directly, Dante countered. Not to hire amateurs to kidnap Elena, not to spread lies that threaten all our operations. She wants war? Fine. But she fights me, not the woman I love. The word love hung in the air. Several faces registered surprise. You love her? Giovanni asked. Truly? With everything I am, Dante said simply, taking my hand. Which is why I'm asking for your support. Give me permission to end this war on my terms. Let me handle Vittoria without interference. In exchange, I'll settle her husband's debts to the rest of you. His territory, his assets. I'll divide them fairly among our families. The room fell silent as they calculated, weighed costs against benefits. Finally, Giovanni spoke. You would give up that much territory? For her? I would give up everything for her, Dante said, but it won't come to that. I'm offering you a fair deal. Vittoria dies. Her vendetta dies with her, and we all profit from her husband's legacy. One by one they agreed, some reluctantly, others with obvious relief. When the last vote was cast, Dante had his permission. It's done then, Giovanni said. But Dante, make it quick, make it clean. We don't need more attention from authorities. It'll be over by morning, Dante promised. He found Vittoria at her estate, alone except for 2 guards who wisely chose not to fight. She stood in her late husband's study, surrounded by memories and rage. "I knew you'd come," she said when Dante entered. I waited in the car, as he'd insisted, but Marco gave me updates over the radio. "You left me no choice," Dante replied. "He was my husband. You killed him in cold blood. He tried to betray me, tried to kill me first. I did what was necessary, and now you'll do the same to me." She laughed bitterly. "At least I'll die knowing I made you suffer. I saw your face when you thought she might die. I saw you break." "You did," Dante agreed. "For about 30 seconds. Then I remembered that Elena is stronger than you'll ever be. That she chose to stay with me despite knowing what I am, and that your husband died because he was weak and greedy and stupid, just like you." The gunshot echoed through the night. When Dante emerged, his expression was calm, but his eyes were haunted. He slid into the car beside me, and I immediately wrapped my arms around him. "It's over," he murmured. "She's gone. You're safe. Are you okay?" "I am now." He kissed my forehead. "Let's go home." 3 months later, we stood on the terrace of the penthouse, watching the sun set over the city. So much had changed, yet everything important remained the same. Dante had reorganized his business, slowly legitimizing where he could, being more careful where he couldn't. I'd enrolled in graduate school, finally pursuing the art history degree I'd abandoned years ago. We'd found a rhythm, a balance between his world and mine. "Do you have any regrets?" he asked, pulling me against his chest. "About dropping that champagne glass?" I smiled. "Not even a little. You know what I mean." I turned in his arms, meeting his eyes. "No regrets. You gave me a life I never could have imagined. You see me, protect me, love me. How could I regret that? Even though I'm possessive and jealous and probably too overprotective. Especially because of that," I kissed him softly. "You're mine, Dante Moretti, and I'm never letting you go." "Good," he murmured against my lips. "Because I wasn't planning on giving you a choice." His hand moved to his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. My heart stopped. "I know we've done everything backward," he said, opening it to reveal a ring that caught the dying light, a ruby surrounded by diamonds, blood red and stunning. "But I want to do this part right. Elena Cross, will you marry me? Will you be mine officially, legally, in every way that matters?" Tears blurred my vision. "You're not going to take no for an answer, are you?" "Absolutely not." He smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his face. "But I'd like to hear you say yes anyway." "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." He slipped the ring onto my finger, a perfect fit, of course. He'd probably had it made months ago. Had been planning this moment with the same meticulous attention he brought to everything. "You're mine forever now," he said, pulling me close. "No escape clause. No, not yet. Just us. For as long as we both live. I wouldn't want it any other way." We stood there as darkness fell, 2 souls who'd found each other in the most unlikely circumstances. A crime lord and a waitress, a dragon and his princess, 2 broken people who'd somehow become whole together. The city lights sparkled below us like a promise. Of danger and beauty, darkness and light. All the contradictions that made life worth living. And in Dante's arms, I'd finally found what I'd been searching for all along. Home.